Hello, everybody, and welcome back to this week's episode of Thinking Out Loud. I am your host, Adriana, and on today's episode, we are talking about something that hits home for me, something that I've had to work through and understand better about myself over the years, which is body confidence, body acceptance, body dysmorphia. If anyone, so pretty much, I've come to a place with my body and my health and the way I move and feed my body that is finally like on autopilot, if that makes any sense. I realized that for the very first time in a very long time, my mind wasn't fixated on losing weight, on working out, on making sure that I was eating foods that were going to make me lose weight. For the first time in a long time, my mind was focused on expanding my creativity, on understanding myself, and just on every other aspect of my life, but what I looked like, right? And I feel like that's something to be celebrated for myself, and I'm here to kind of open up the conversation and maybe give you guys some insight that you may or may not have. I for sure didn't have this kind of perspective back when I was going through my body image problems and my constant want to work out and my constant desire to look a certain way. Because it took me two little aha moments. One, or the very first aha moment, was when I would think about or reflect on what my old productive days looked like, right? A productive day for me consisted of hitting the gym and meal prepping that day, or making sure that I fed my body properly throughout that day, right? My mind didn't have the range to focus on anything else but that. And I remember I felt the most satisfied with myself when I made it to the gym, I ate properly, and that was it, right? But then it came to a point where I reflected on that and how that was the only way that was the so for Adriana, right, for myself, that's what a productive day looked like for me. And I was like, that's boring. Like, I know that for a lot of people who are still going through body image issues and are like killing themselves at the gym, or just have themselves on a very strict workout and eating regimen, it is important for your mind to be there, right? And I know that sometimes you can't even move your mind away from that, because like I was stuck in that mind frame for, I want to say 19, 20, 22. I want to say 3 years. 3 years. I was definitely stuck in that mind frame for 3 years. I working out, talking about what I was eating, talking about how I looked like, talking about how I wish I looked like. It's very easy for people to fall into those conversations, like if one person starts to comment about their weight and how they don't feel comfortable, it's easy for another person to comment on their weight and also admit that they don't feel comfortable. And then it turns into this whole dialogue about how everyone's unhappy with their bodies and how they wish it looked like this, or how they wish they put in the effort to make it look like this, right? And that's not to say that that part of my life wasn't important, because I think that in the time that I was so like obsessed with losing weight and just looking like physically more attractive, I learned how to take care of my body. I learned what did work and what didn't work for me. However, I wish I hadn't spent so much time obsessing over what I looked like and placing so much of my self-value and self-worth on my physical appearance, right? Which brings me to my second aha moment, right? Unfortunately, for so many of us, it takes overcoming our physical insecurities, like overcoming them or conquering them or just being okay in them, right? It takes us overcoming the physical insecurities to feel even confident enough to go after anything that anything else that exists within us, right? And where I'm going with this video today is that I just want anyone who's going through any body transformations at the moment, anyone who's currently like hitting the gym, anyone who's currently trying to get their health routine back on track, to remember that there's other parts of us that we need to attend to in order to feel confident, right? And in order to feel like ourselves as well. And the reason why I say this is because when I was so fixated on my body, I had lost like all creativity. Like I was not tapped into my creative side at all. I was not tapped into like I was not attending to like just the development of my brain when it came to like studying or like just educating myself in any way, right? Like 3 years ago, I was still in school, and like I cared more to show up to the gym and like kill that workout than showing up on time to class or finishing up a homework assignment. Or sometimes like I would rush a homework assignment just so that I would what's it called, have time to go to the gym or show up to the gym and then do my homework, right? Like my body and what I looked like was a top priority, and it was so toxic to myself. Right? I made a post on my Instagram talking about how fashion and dressing up for me was a tool I used to make myself feel comfortable stepping out the house and presenting myself to other people when I knew I had gained weight and I didn't like how I looked. When I knew, or when I felt like that people could see the insecurities I held with about my body, right? Growing up, I was always bigger than everybody else. My entire adult life, plus, what was it? Like from like 6th grade to my adult life, I've always been anywhere between the size range of like an 8, like pant size 8 or dress size 8, to a size 14. And I'm pretty sure that at one point, size 14 was as big as I got. And I was always the bigger friend. Like I'm not super short. I'm 5'6", and I grew into this height at a very young age. So it's like I was pretty much the size I am now back in elementary school, back in junior high, when everyone else, girls and boys included, were like half my size. And I carried a lot of shame because of that. Like I always felt embarrassed. I always felt like the big kid. I didn't get horribly bullied, but there were always comments that were made about my size, about my height, about my weight, and like about how I looked in comparison to other people. And other people constantly making comments about my body and comparing it to other people programmed me to constantly compare my size to other people, always. And so much so that like I was so fixated and obsessed with what people thought of my body. Like I was so fixated and obsessed with what I thought of my own body. It was such a draining place to be mentally, because as much as I didn't want to only be known for my body, I only saw myself as my body, right? Like what would you look at that? um, and I transformed my body into something that I thought was going to be finally accepted and desirable, right? Specifically desirable by other men, because I never felt like I quit. I mean, it's embarrassing to admit, but um, yeah, I was placing a lot of my self-worth in my body and on whether or not it was going to be received a certain way, right? And so the very first time I ever lost weight was like probably like 5 years ago, and I did lose some weight, started getting some attention, you know. Um, I I remember then gaining the weight again, then the attention of like men also went away, and the validation from other women that were just like, oh yeah, you look great, also went away, right? um and so then when those things went away, it went back to it in my mind, it just reconfirmed what I already thought or what I already feared, which was I was only acceptable, I was only lovable at a smaller size. And then I picked up a bunch of weight. This was around the time I was like 19 years old, I think. I picked up a bunch of weight, and I was like, I had gotten to like a breaking point. Like I had gained so much weight, I felt disgusted with myself. At the time, I'm pretty sure I was depressed because I used to just binge eat at night by myself, to the point of like I would eat until I was disgusted with myself, pretty much. And then I would wake up in the mornings and then try to offset the horrible eating, or if not offset it by eating super healthy the next day, I would just continue the unhealthy eat. Like I would eat more junk food, pretty much as like, well, you already ate like a fat ass last night, you might as well continue the cycle because you're just a fat ass, and whatever, you know. And it came like from a place of like so much self-loathing and and shame, because it was just I remember I used to be disgusted with myself, like, and I used to make like jokes out loud about the way I looked, um and I used to make fun of the fact that I knew I was inconsistent with the way I approached my diet, and with the way that I approached my like working out habits, right? um it finally then like something switched in my mind that I just wanted to be healthy. I recognized that within my family's history, my family has a history of like diabetes and stuff, and high blood pressure and cholesterol. And I knew that I didn't want to end up with those problems when I was older. I knew that I had at least enough self-awareness to know that the way I was eating was coming from a place of like self-harm, as weird as that sounds. So from the ages of like 20 to 21, early 22, no, yeah. So then for like another like year and a half of my life, I decided to get healthy, and I wanted to get healthy just for the sake of like being good to myself, like because I wanted to be healthy for the future me. And during that time frame, I actually lost a lot of weight again, and I got really healthy-ish. Um, and again, like as the weight started to come off, I remember I had I was working at like um or where I was working, even my customers started to make comments about my weight. And that used to make me so angry. It used to make me so angry because I was like, ew, like why is that the first thing that people comment on when like when they see you, you know? Like it to me that was always such like an annoyance. Like people are so like, what's the word, like fijados, you know, like they just pay attention to their physical, like they're so ready to critique your physical body, you know. And that used to trigger me like so much. And when I used to receive compliments that, oh, like you've lost weight, like you look so good, I would get angry because I knew that I was actively trying to tell myself, like, even though you're losing weight, it's not that you're more worthy of love now than you were when you were heavier. But those comments and praise contradicted what I was trying to teach myself, right? So those comments used to make me very angry because I was like, that wasn't here when I was chunkier, you know? Um, and and so then I thinned out like a lot. But like I said, I've always been bigger growing up, and I've always been considered like thick growing up. Um, I was always curvier growing up. So, and when I gain a lot of weight, I'm more curvier, like by like a lot. So it's like I was thick before thick was a trend. And so when thick became a trend, I didn't really care that thick was a trend because I grew up where being skinny, like Hilton skinny, Mary Kate and Ashley skinny was pretty or deemed beautiful. And when I lost a bunch of weight, it was like, oh, but Adriana, you looked so much better when you were like thicker and curvier, and like now you've lost your hips, now you've lost your butt. So it was like, okay, people liked when I looked this way, but I feel better and I like myself this way. But now people are commenting on what physical features I've lost due to my weight loss. But the mind and the where my mind was is that like I still needed their praise to accept that, like, to be okay in the body that I was in, pretty much, right? um and and so like my where I was mentally, it's like I was so confused. I was like, I don't get it. Like I'm heavier and I'm unhealthy and I don't like how I feel. I'm curvier and thicker on one end. And some people, and now that I'm losing weight, people are saying like, oh, but you looked better this way. Okay, well, I don't care that I looked better to you this way. I felt disgusting this way. Like I just couldn't move my body the same way. I didn't have the same energy that I have now, for example, right? Um, the way I talked to myself and fed my body wasn't the same. But then when I felt healthier, when I was taking the steps to be better for myself, people were seeing it like, oh, but you no longer look like this. And I was just like, well, leave me alone because I don't care. Like, so it took me a very, very, very long time to not accept the praise and not accept the criticism, right? Um, Fast forward to like 2019, 2020, I picked up weight again. And that time it felt like I had picked up weight as a form of self-sabotage. And I say it that way because by 2019, I feel like I had already understood what healthy habits looked like. I had understood what, or at least I had a more basic understanding of like what practicing self-love looked like, right? And I got like probably to like I want to say my most defeated state, like where it's like I just really felt like I just couldn't get myself back into the gym. I couldn't get myself back into a gym routine. I couldn't get myself back to eating healthy no matter how much I tried, because I wanted to get back to the way I looked. I couldn't get my mind right, right? I couldn't get my mind. I just couldn't get my mind right. And I remember like I had even like for a while, like for, I want to say like 2 months, I was really stuck on like, fuck it, I'm just gonna get lipo. Like, fuck it. Like, everyone else has lipo. Like, and being snatched is in, and it'd be easier, and like, F it, like, it's not that much money. Um, and I knew like that much about myself. At least and then in that instance, right, I had at least that much self-awareness to know that wasn't on brand for myself. It wasn't true to who I was, because even like during my roller coaster of gaining weight and losing weight, I've always, even though I was struggling with accomplishing it myself, I was always a huge advocate for learning to love yourself and learning to accept what your body is, like, for what it is and for what it could do. And I remember, like, I really, and it's like, I told myself, like, you could go just get this lipo and then your life would be set, your life would be like chill, like you'd be happy, you'd be what you wanted, whatever, right? But then I knew, I was like, you haven't been in the gym in over a year, you haven't been eating right in over a year, you haven't been taking care of yourself in over a year. What makes you think that getting this work done is going to change any of the habits that you currently have in place, right? So I spent the better half of 2020 journaling and asking myself the underlying motive for everything. Why I wanted the lipo. Why I wanted to lose the amount of weight that I wanted to lose. What I thought I was going to feel like after I lost the weight again. Who I thought I was going to present myself to, how I thought I was going to present myself to the world if I had lost X amount of weight, right? And I journaled almost every single day about it. And I came to a place where I was like, kind of like, you have like an average body type. Your physical being, like my physical, right? It's just like an average body. And that's okay. Accept it, you know? And I think like all of us, because we see what's like on Instagram, or just how we see so many other people getting like work done, and or just going through these incredible like fitness transformations, we want to get close to that above average aesthetic, or so we think, you know? I think like if everyone can come to the place, or come to understand this, or if you already do understand this, right? That there's more to us than like our physical bodies. You're able to focus on like the other things in your life that like matter to you, you know? Like I said, I got a lot of my creativity back during lockdown. I was able to start this YouTube channel during lockdown, starting this YouTube channel, and even being as consistent as I've been with it, even though it's like on a monthly kind of basis, has then given me the confidence, right, that I felt that I needed, or the confidence within myself to know that I can present myself to the world and just be myself and not really care how I'm received. Oh my God, I'm gonna cry. Um, yeah, like it's crazy, because like our I talk about that a lot on this channel, about like our mental well-being and where our mindset is and what we should prioritize in our brains. And that's not to say that our bodies aren't important, right? Our bodies are what carry us through our everyday lives, and it's gonna be with us forever. However, creating a relationship with your body where you just, or for myself, I'm going to speak out of personal experience, because now I work out and I eat based on what my body asks for. I've been vegan for about 2 months now, and that was just like a personal decision, like nothing, not for diet, not for like losing weight purposes, and not for not for losing weight purposes, just because it was just like a lifestyle decision I decided to take. That's helped me out in listening to how my body wants to be fed. I move my body based on how I feel my body wants to be moved. Like if I have a day where I'm going to work and I want to work on like any side project that I'm doing, and I don't necessarily have time for the gym, like okay, like I won't go. And I've gotten to a place where I don't sabotage my entire day because I didn't show up to the gym, and I don't sabotage my entire eating because I didn't show up to the gym. I just don't go. And then I just keep a mental note, because I know that for my mental well-being and my physical well-being, I need to move my body at minimum twice a week. I always aim anywhere between 2 to 4 times a week, depending on how busy my schedule is. And I just listen to it, you know, like yesterday I woke up and I had a bunch of energy, and I was like, let me just go to work out, because I have this energy and I know that if I don't work out, I'm going to be restless and I'm not going to be able to focus. So let me go, you know, kind of work out this energy. And because I've done a lot more work with understanding how our minds and our bodies are connected, I understand now in hindsight, when I was going through my cycles of like gaining weight and like binge eating, or just not taking care of my body, not listening to what it needed and wanted. It came from like a place of like disconnect from myself, right? Like it's like I just like I was like just wasn't listening to my physical needs, like what my body needed, right? Tariq Ali, he is a YouTuber. He made an amazing video with it was like him, and it was a conversation with him and like a psychiatrist and 2 other of like his friends, talking about my body dysmorphia and what it looks like on like a skinny person, on like a medium-sized person, and like on a bigger sized person, right? And so if you guys enjoyed this conversation, if you want to dig in deeper, if this scratched the surface for you at all, I'm gonna put his YouTube video link in the description box so you guys can check it out. And if any of you guys are still going through any of like your body image issues, or have any questions, or you know, want to talk about what's going on in your mind, leave any comments down below. Maybe you guys can talk amongst each other. I'll probably be more than likely, right? I'm going to upload my next video on some of the books that helped me fix my mentals, you know, because I can't afford a psychologist and I can't afford therapy, but there are many books and healing books that we can read. So more than likely I'll probably make a video of like all the books that I've enjoyed reading and that have helped me out. Thank you for listening to me. Ew. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you for listening to me. This was Thinking Out Loud. Thank you for letting me share my thoughts out loud with you guys.